The sun was sinking behind the forgotten highway when everything changed. The girl's breath trembled as she knelt in the dirt, her hands burning from the rough rope she'd spent hours fighting against. Behind her, the abandoned gas station towered like a silent witness, its rusted signs creaking with every shift of the wind. She was exhausted, terrified, and close to giving up. And then, out of the glowing haze of sunset and gasoline fumes, she saw him, a broad-shouldered biker in a black Hell Angel vest, dragging his boots through the dust, unaware that fate was about to collide with him in the most unexpected way. In that moment, she didn't know whether salvation or danger was approaching, only that something was coming. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected heroes, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps us bring more stories like this to life. She had been abandoned hours before. The world had grown blurry from fear long before the ropes started to bite into her skin. The gas station was miles away from any real town, and only a hollow silence surrounded her, the kind that makes a person hear every heartbeat, every small memory of their mistakes and regrets. She kept replaying the betrayal that led her here, the friend who wasn't a friend, the trust she gave too easily, and the realization that danger doesn't always wear the face of a stranger. She had been dragged, tied, and left like discarded trash. The attacker, his Jeep, kicking up dust as it pulled away without a second thought. The biker didn't know any of this when he pulled into the station. He had only intended to fill his tank and keep riding until the road swallowed his past. He carried his own ghosts, the kind carved into skin by ink and into his soul by loss. His brothers called him brave, but even bravery cracks when life hits hard enough. He was searching for something he couldn't name, and somehow, the universe put her in his path. When he spotted her in the golden light, he froze. At first, he thought she was another hallucination from sleepless nights and too many regrets. But the fear in her eyes was real, the shaking in her hands was real, and the strip of silver tape pressed against her mouth told him she had been through hell before he even got there. His heart, hard as gravel most days, softened instantly. He didn't shout or rush forward. Something about the way she stared at him, trusting him without knowing why, made him move slowly, gently, as if she were a wounded animal he didn't want to scare. She watched him kneel. She watched his hands untie the knots with care that didn't match his rough exterior. She watched his eyes, surprisingly warm, surprisingly human, flicker with worry. No one had looked at her that way in a long time. When he peeled away the tape, she inhaled sharply, as if taking her first real breath in hours. And when the rope finally fell away from her wrists, she could have collapsed, but his arms were there before she hit the ground. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The world around them was still, the quiet hum of insects in the dry grass, the humming neon sign inside the station flickering. Even though the building hadn't been open in years, the faint sound of a truck passing on the far side of the highway. It all felt surreal, like the world had pressed pause on everything except these two people, thrown together by pain and circumstance. He wasn't supposed to stay. He lived on the road. He didn't get involved. But something inside him whispered that leaving her here would haunt him forever. Every scar on his body reminded him that abandonment was the cruelest fate for anyone. So he lifted her gently, carried her toward the shade of the station, and gave her water from his canteen. She drank in slow, trembling sips, her chest rising and falling as tears she couldn't hold back spilled down her cheeks. She wasn't ready to tell him her story, and he didn't ask. He simply sat across from her, letting the silence be a blanket instead of a burden. And for the first time since she'd been tied up, she didn't feel alone. As minutes passed, she began to feel safe enough to breathe again. Safe enough to think. Safe enough to remember who she was before fear took everything. He noticed the change, the way her shoulders relaxed, the way her eyes lifted from the dirt to meet his. He didn't smile, but there was a kind of quiet relief in his expression. That comes with knowing you've done something right without needing credit for it. But the danger wasn't over. Her attacker could return. Night was approaching. And for all his strength, he knew he couldn't protect her alone. Yet when she tried to stand and stumbled, he caught her again, steadying her with an instinct that felt less like duty and more like destiny. The biker didn't know why this moment mattered so much. He only knew that helping her felt like helping himself, like maybe saving one broken person might patch the cracks in his own heart. And she, shaken but alive, felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Fragile, unfamiliar, but real. They stayed until the sky turned indigo and the stars replaced the fading sunlight. By then, she had told him enough. Not everything, but enough for him to understand. And he made a silent promise when he didn't speak aloud, because he knew it wasn't a promise to her, it was a promise to himself. He would not leave her behind. Not now, not like this, not ever. If this story has touched your heart so far, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us reach more people who love emotional, powerful stories. Before the ending, here's a special request. Comment below what you would have done if you were the one who found her. In the end, it wasn't just the ropes that were broken that day behind the abandoned gas station. It was the cycle of fear, isolation, and despair that had held them both captive for far too long. She found safety in the arms of an unlikely protector, and he found purpose where he least expected it. And as they rode away from that dusty, haunted place on the back of his bike, the world did not magically fix itself, but it finally felt survivable. They weren't strangers anymore. They were survivors together.